part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi and Roda podcast powered by MGM Northfield Park right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out to our great producer, the one, the only. Mike Courts does it as well as anybody, and we're lucky to have him producing this podcast for all of you out there in the podcatosphere, so you can get this wherever you may get your podcast. And make sure you, if you're on the Press Play Podcast Network, you hit the subscribe button, lock us in, so you know whenever we or anybody on the Press Play Podcast Network release a new podcast for you to listen to. And Michael Reghi, wacko for Flacco, Flacco fever. The Browns somehow, some way. Usually, Reds, we would talk about this, Reds, right? We would talk about nobody snatches defeat from the jaws of victory better than the Cleveland Browns. Well, today, it was the complete reversal of that. The Browns somehow, some way, snatched a win from the jaws of defeat at home today, down 17-7 in the fourth quarter. They survive a Hail Mary and beat the Bears 20-17, and I didn't think it was possible after watching them in the third quarter.
Kenny, how many times do we say, look, especially in the NFL, a win is a win is a win. You worry about cleaning all the crap that you didn't do well up during the week as you get ready for the next one. But that's exactly what they did today. And Kenny, look, I got to, there was a lot that went poorly, no doubt about it. But Ken, down 17-7, right? Fourth quarter winning time. They went on that 13-zip fourth quarter spurt and solidified the victory. I mean, they had 140 more total yards than the Chicago Bears did, although I didn't like the fact, and I sure hope they put a lot of time into this week, Kenny. They're going to have to run the football for better than 29 damn yards to keep winning coming down the stretch, which is what they did today. But and Flacco throwing the 3 picks, got to take – he knows better than that. Man's been doing this for almost 20 years. Got to take better care of the football. But, again, he had enough to be able to throw the 2 touchdown passes, and as I said, you're down by 10 in the fourth quarter. And that was – can you imagine if they lose that game today, Kenny? Can you imagine the impact that would have had?
The way in which they would have lost, coming all the way back and then giving up the Hail Mary. Ball was in the guy's lap. I forget the receiver's name, number 11 for the Bears, whoever that was. He's laying on the ground. Mooney. All right.
Mooney.
It falls right to him. All he has to do is wrap it up and grab it. And Reg, you know what it reminded me of? And you did the game not too long ago at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. Almost a similar play where the Hoban kid had the ball in his lap and he hit the ground and it popped free. Same here today but this one was a Hail Mary. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be another one of those OIC endings. And luckily he kicked it up in the air. Browns intercepted it and they survived 20-17. And now they're 9-5 and they have complete control of their wild card destiny as the number 5 seed in the AFC playoffs.
Kenny, I was looking at it too, and I made sure I looked twice to make sure I got this right. That's the first time Joe Flacco threw 3 picks in a game in 9 years.
Wow.
The last was 2014 as a Baltimore Raven. And so there, you got to have the football gods smiling on you sometimes, right? And fortunately for the Browns, they did today. And how about Flacco targeting the Chief, David Njoku, 14 times today? 14 times. And Cedric Tillman got 8 targets today. So the Browns found a way, Ken. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And you're down 17-7. And like we said, they go 13-0 in the fourth quarter. So you got it done at winning time. It was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but they found a way to put it in the win column. And as we know, if that one's a loss today, oh my God, that would have had a hell of a lot of negative ramifications with it, don't you think?
Oh, without question. And the offense would have been skewered, right? And roasted like crazy. The defense played well again, Red. Think about it. 14 of the 17 points were off Flacco turnovers. One was a pick six. The other one set up an easy touchdown. It took the Bears 10 plays, I think, to go 2 yards with all those penalties and that sequence that happened there. So really, the defense was outstanding. The offense, Reg, it concerns me. But Tonio goes down with the back injury today. They may be calling, some of the guys that have been. Steve Everett might get a call to come back and play for the Browns on the offensive line, or Mitchell Schwartz or Greco. Yeah, get Greco out of the media department and back on the field.
That's right. You named 3 good ones. Get Schwartz and Greco and Everett back. Let them try to protect Flacco for these last few weeks.
Wonder if Flacco has any buddies he was texting while he was not playing that are sitting on the couch that are offensive linemen that he might be able to pick up the phone. Hey, guys, okay, I need a little help here, opportunity to play and, get some extra cash, some playoff money, and see how far we can go. Because right now, that offensive line with the guy, no offense to those guys. I know they're trying hard, but they're not good at all. The running game was non-existent today. And like you said, when you're going up against Houston on the road, Jets at home, and then the Bengals who are playing well, you've got to have some semblance of a running game to allow Flacco to do what he does very well, and that's play action off the run. And when that's not there, well, they can just pin their ears back and come after Flacco, and he still made plays today. So tip of the cap to Joe Flacco once again, throwing for 374, 2 touchdowns and 3 picks in the win today.
Exactly, but Ken, you're hitting it on the head. I don't want to continue to see him throwing the football 50-plus times again. Right. So therein lies the story. They got to find a way to get the run game. Nobody's asking for $150 now from the running game, but 60, 70, somewhere in there, that at least you don't have the defense that's dropping 7, 8 in coverage, virtually on every snap that the Browns put together, because they don't respect the run game, and it's got to be better than it was today. Let's hope that this week Stefanski and the offensive folks really go after it, and we see a better running game coming up next week.
How about Joe Flacco in the fourth quarter today, Rich? Did you see his numbers in the fourth quarter alone today? Joe Flacco, you ready for this?
I saw him.
These are legends. These are, where legends are made. Joe Flacco in the fourth quarter, 11 of 13, 212 yards, 4 throws of over 30-plus yards, and a touchdown, in leading them back with a touchdown pass and setting up that 4th game-winning field goal of the year for my MVP on the team. D-Hop, Dustin Hopkins, put it through the uprights to get them the win. So Flacco setting them up and Hopkins knocking them down. And the Browns now with 9 wins, they're guaranteed a winning season this year, regardless of what happens in the final 3.
Well, you're right. And we know, look, Flacco can still spin it, right? A couple of those throws that he made, was taking me back to the Baltimore Ravens days during the Super Bowl years and beyond with Flacco. As a couple of those throws, that deep crossing route, Kenny, to Amari Cooper, I thought that's a special throw. Not every NFL quarterback can make that throw. A couple of the throws to Njoku had to be absolutely pinpoint right there. And he was able to hit those too. So, I know what we're probably saying is the Browns are probably going to need Flacco to be above 300 yards and hopefully without the 3 picks. Maybe not every one of them his fault entirely, but, turnovers will ultimately hurt you when there's too many. And, Kenny, you turn it over 3 times today, and they also fumbled once that they did not lose. But I just hope they're able to clean that up and play a little bit cleaner with their offensive approach,
And they need to play better because 2 of the last 3 are on the road where they're not as good, where they're 7-1 at home, right, Reg?
Right.
What are they? 2-4 on the road to this point. So they're at Houston, where they're a 1.5-point dog next week. And then the final game against Cincinnati, don't know when that's going to be. It could be for, a wild card spot. It could be for the top wild card spot because my guy Browning Nagel of the Cincinnati Bengals led them to another victory. And so they're only a game behind the Browns in the wild card standing. So, they're going to have to play better overall football on the road in 2 out of those final 3 and hopefully take care of the Jets at home on that Thursday night game. I'm giving that one as a win. Here's what I need, Reg. I need a 2-1 record the rest of the way to guarantee me that 5th wild card spot, I think, in the AFC for the Browns.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, 2-1 will do that for sure. And, I mean, the one, going to Houston, right, that could be a little problematic. So they'll see Ohio State quarterbacks on back-to-back weeks, right? In terms of Fields and then Stroud. So, but look, you're right about, unfortunately, hate to say it, but they don't play the same way or with the same type of strength and the same type of looking like where they feel good about they can impose their will on the road, Ken. We haven't seen that too much this year. So, I mean, now would be a good time, right? If there's ever a time to unwrap it, now's a good time in Houston next week.
And by the way, I got to say thank you for the early Christmas present, too. If you're a Browns fan, make sure you send those thank yous to Soldier Field, the Chicago Bears, and send it to Coach Eberflus with some of the play calls that were made by the Bears in that fourth quarter, both on offense and defense, Reg. I'm sitting there going, really? You're throwing the ball there. Okay, all right. You've got a mobile quarterback. The Browns are banged up. Fields was averaging 4 or 5 yards every time he scrambled. It looked like, and I was flabbergasted by some of the play calls and then the decisions at halftime not to try the 55-yard field goal, the 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 situation there. So I thought again, tip of the cap to Kevin Stefanski. He outcoached Eberflus with all the injuries before the game, during the game, to have the ability to be there and then come back and survive the Hail Mary and get the win. Got to give Kevin Stefanski credit, Reg. He's got to be at least talked about for the coach of the year in the AFC, if not in the NFL, for the job that he's doing this year.
Well, there's no question about that. And just a quick personal aside, Kenny, didn't want him to win today, but I've known Matt Eberflus since he's been 14 years old. He was an all-state linebacker at Whitmer High, very strong program in Toledo. And then, of course, played for the University of Toledo, the Toledo Rockets in the MAC. So, guys, I was, always followed him and enjoyed his opportunity to then be an NFL head coach. Didn't want him to be successful today. But you're exactly right. There were, I imagine that the Chicago media might be really going after him about a couple of particular decisions he made, as you just pointed out.
Yeah, so the Browns benefit from that. But, hey, when they give you the opportunity, you need to take advantage of it. And the Browns did exactly that. And how about this? I was looking at some numbers they gave us via email from the Browns PR department. Dustin Hopkins, 121 points. Now, second all time in the history of the Cleveland Browns for most points in a single season, trailing only the late, great, legendary Jim Brown, who scored 126 points in 1965. So D-Hop, without him, Reg, instead of 9-5, they may be 5-9 without Dustin Hopkins this year, as he has 4 game-winning field goals for them and has made 33 field goal attempts this season, which is also a Cleveland Browns record.
Made a major impact on this football team for all the reasons you just laid out, and then some. And sure, you might easily take a couple of W's away if Hopkins hasn't been as proficient as he's been this year. So got to keep it up, got to keep rolling, because as you know, that's the life of the field goal guys in the NFL. I mean, you're only as good as your next one, right? And
nice job, you effing kicker. Nice job. Yeah, that's what you'll hear when you shank one.
And there you go. Better get above that damn crossbar and between those uprights, because The only one that anybody cares about is your next one. So, nice job, you effing kicker. And Dustin Hopkins has been pretty sweet.
He has. All right, Reg, let's do this. Let's get a break in right now. All right. We'll come back. We'll take a look at how that wild card race is shaping up in the AFC. Get your thoughts, my thoughts on that. Some more Flacco fever. We'll dive into some more numbers from Joe Flacco from the couch to the winner's circle, helping the Cleveland Browns improve to 9-5 and right now hold the number 5 spot in the AFC standings and the number 1 spot in the AFC wildcard race. We'll get into all that and more when we return with the Reghi and Roda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, powered by MGM Northfield Park.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, the Roadman, Kenny Roda here for the Reghi and Roda podcast. Got to give a shout out to our outstanding sponsor, title sponsor again this year, MGM Northfield Park. If you've not been out to MGM Northfield Park, you need to head out and have a great time. So much to do, so much fun to be had. And here's what they have going on at the track this week, starting Monday, December 18th. The doors will open at noon every day for simulcasting. Win some cash as you bet across the country. Live racing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday. First post always 6 p.m. Now, the racetrack will be closed Sunday, December 24th, Monday, December 25th for the holidays. But after that, they'll get back to their regular schedule. Again, head on out to MGM Northfield Park and tell them Reghi and Roda sent you.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome back to the R&R podcast, powered by MGM Northfield Park. You can always catch us on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe there. That way you'll get it hot off the presses whenever the next Reghi and Roda podcast drops. Or you can just ask your favorite smart device and just say, hey, play Reghi and Roda podcast, and Siri will do that, Alexa will do that, or whoever you talk to on your phone or your speaker or whatever the heck is hanging in your house, listening to you like Big Brother from George Orwell's 1984 novel that we all read back in the day and laughed at him. All right, Reg, we're looking at the AFC playoff race, right? Baltimore playing as we speak against Jacksonville. Big game going on there tonight. If they win, they'll be 11-3 and have the best record in the AFC. If they lose, they'll be tied with Miami for the best record in the AFC at 10-4. Kansas City's 9-5, and Jacksonville will either be 9-5 or 8-6, but still leading their division. Those are the division leaders, Reg. Wild card race we know right now is this: Cleveland in the 5th spot in the AFC, but the top wild card at 9-5. You've got Cincinnati at 8-6. And Indianapolis at 8-6. Those are the 3 wild card leaders right now, followed closely, though, by Houston and Buffalo at 8-6. This is what Pete Rozelle wanted, right? This is what, you go all the way back to Rozelle and then Tagliabue and now Roger Goodell. This is what they want. They wanted parity, didn't they, Reg? They wanted this to come down to the final to last week, whatever it is, and have 14 of 16 teams in each conference having a chance to make the playoffs.
1,000,000%. That's exactly what they want, partner. And, Ken, we kind of laugh about it. Hell, I mean, if everybody now with 17 games, if everybody was half 9 and 8, and the other half 8 and 9, and going down the last weekend with all kinds of playoff spots alive, I think they'd love that the best. Not quite to that extent, but yeah, when you look at both the AFC with, of course, the Browns conference and the NFC too, Kenny, so many squads still have an opportunity to get there with 2 to 3 weeks left in the regular season.
I'm looking at the wild card situation, Reg. Houston, this game next week for the Browns with Houston, ginormous, right?
Yep.
I mean, wild card implications, tiebreaker implications, and everything. C.J. Stroud did not play today because of a concussion. We'll see if he's back for next week's game against the Browns. The Jets, they stink. They're 5-9. Yeah, they got lucky last week, but they got blowed out today by the Miami Dolphins, who played without Tyreek Hill. And then the surprising Bengals with Jake Browning. I joke Browning-Nagel, but Jake Browning, give him some credit here, right? He's helped them stay afloat in the wild card race. And the team that I think everybody needs to be on a lookout for, Reg, the Buffalo Bills, man. The last 3 weeks, the Bills have played the Eagles, Chiefs, and Cowboys. Lost by 3 to Philly, beat KC at KC by 3, and then crushed today the Dallas Cowboys. And that's, I wanted to see what Dallas did on the road, right? Against a good team. That's why I don't know if they're a serious contender. They're on that pretender line for me still, because when they get beat, Reg, they don't just lose. They get blowed out the stadium, and that's what the Bills did today. And Buffalo's got the Chargers, the Patriots, 2 very winnable games, right? And then they've got the final game of the regular season for them at Miami, which might decide that division, or it could decide their wild card hopes.
Yeah, sure it can. So what we're saying is there's just so much that still has to be decided and so much to play for. Yep. And this is a situation, right, where, I mean, didn't we say, so the Browns are able to go 2-1, that'll put them at 11-6?
Yep.
On the year. And I know you and I both put that number out there way back when in August and September. So 11-6, yeah, that should get it done for the Browns. Of course, kind of hope they can find a way to win all 3 and do a 12-5. But they've got themselves in position where they need to be. And for right now, we'll take that and run with it.
Reg, I'll trying to be realistic. A game today, this game, 9 times out of 10, they lose, right? They had no offense. They couldn't do anything through the first 3 quarters. Their offense looked inept. Flacco looked terrible. One of the picks wasn't his fault. The other was, or one of the 3 wasn't his fault. I think the other 2 were his fault. So you're wondering how the hell are they going to come back and win this game? And yet they were able to, thanks to the defense, keeping it low scoring, right? Justin Fields really couldn't do anything to separate and some of the play calls and everything with the Bears. So I got to give them all kind of credit, but being realistic, for them to, what would that be? 5 in a row to close the season. I don't know if that's, humanly possible with the injuries that they're trying to play through and everything. So I'll take, as Meatloaf once said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad to close the season. And if they can do that, I don't know if that gets them the 5th spot, right? Or the top wild card spot. But if you get to 11 wins, I think the Browns end up as one of those 3 wild card teams that have a chance to play in the postseason.
Sure seems like it. And as we said, while it certainly wasn't a thing of beauty today, Kenny, a win is a win is a win in the National Football League. And they were able to do that today. They had to get through a lot of obstacles to get it done. So, yeah, I mean, can you win the final 3? Well, we've just kind of laid it out. You got to put yourself in position to do that. And with the Browns, that means, Kenny, getting into the 4th quarter. Now, and today, though, I didn't feel real good when they were down 17-7 going in the 4th. I'll be real honest with you. Because, as you just said, the offense wasn't playing well at all. Flacco wasn't as sharp. The run game was just 0 today. Nothing. Non-existent. But they found a way. So might they need some more of that that kind of late game heroics again? Probably will. Hell, might need it in every football game they play from here going forward. But they found a way today, and you take the W, you move on, and but agreed. If they can win 2 out of these next 3, we should feel pretty good about them going into the playoffs. That wouldn't necessarily guarantee them a home game, but again, you just want to stack up the wins as much as you can going into the playoffs.
You know who else was heroic today, Reg?
Who's that?
Me. 9-leg parlay. Nailed it, baby.
What? 9?
A 9-leg parlay today.
Wow.
How about that? And I combined NBA and NFL. Now, it was only for $1. It was one of those free bets, right? So I'm not going to, take their free $1 and $2. That's no fun. What can I do with $2, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm going, you know what? I'm going to do money lines, the NBA, NFL. I'm going to do a 9-legger to pay me like $15 if I can hit that 9-legger. And thank God the Browns, I was worried, man. I thought I was going to go 8 for 9 and the Browns were going to be that one team that cost me, but I'm riding the streaks in the NBA, right? Got to ride the streaks with the Pistons. How many have they lost in a row now? 23, 24, whatever it is?
Yeah, 23, yeah.
Spurs have lost somewhere around 20 in a row, too. Got to ride that streak out till it ends. I've learned that. Ride the streak if you're a gambler. And now that gambling's legal in Ohio and at Bushwood Country Club, I'm starting to use some of those tips that Judge Smales gave me back in the day. Let it fresco. Mr. Scholarship winner. Okay, Pookie. And what else? Oh, yeah, Washington struggling as well. So I'm riding those streaks, and then I just looked at some NFL games and said, okay, this is the best team on paper. I'm going to take them today. And that makes up for last week where I went 0 for 3. I hit a 9-teamer and a 7-teamer today, Reg, and made a whopping $22 on the day. How about that?
That's phenomenal, because I hope you know how difficult that is to win 9 games. I mean, that's extremely difficult. And if you were able to get that done today, mastermind that, then more power to you, man. Rock on. Keep rolling.
Big bucks, no whammies. Thank you for that $1 free bet. Yeah, hey, I have no problem spending their money. Now, when it comes to my money, that's another issue.
Yeah,
so, we'll see how that plays out. But I wasn't as good as Flacco, though, was in that fourth quarter. And how about these numbers? Wacko for Flacco, Flacco fever, whatever you want to call it. All right. Joe Flacco, as they, sent us these numbers now with 939 yards in his first 3 starts, the most ever for a Browns quarterback in the history of the franchise in their first 3 games. So he's averaging 313 yards a game throwing the football through his first 3 games, and they're 2-1 in those 3 games, Reg.
Yeah, well, and again, it's a guy that's been through all of this before. The one thing I like about it is and for that reason, nothing phases him.
Right.
I mean, now he'll because he's got that, that elite $1 million arm, he'll take some chances and make throws that probably said, Joe, don't make that throw. Did a couple of that today.
Yep.
But, I really thought, speaking of defensive plays, that DeAnthony Bell and Jeremiah Owusu-Okoronkwo, each with the pick of Fields. I really think that, and then Kenny, that big 17-7 down. Browns down 17-7. Flacco made that 52-yard throw to Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah.
And that was in the fourth quarter. And then he hit Cooper eventually later after the field goal there on that, where Cooper kind of managed his way down the sideline to get in the end zone. Those 2 throws, I thought, well, yeah, you know what? This is what a 39-year-old veteran that's been playing like this, that still has the golden arm, can do. And needed every bit of it, right? But it came out when it was necessary today. And Flacco and the Browns found a way to get it done.
Yeah, they did. That's the bottom line this time of the year. Just win, baby, as Mr. Davis used to say with the Oakland Raiders back in the day. And the Browns are taking a page from the old Raiders playbook. Doesn't matter how you get it done, just get it done. And 9-5 is the record with 3 more games to go, 1 at home, 2 on the road. Next up, the Houston Texans, Sunday on the 24th, Christmas Eve. So maybe an early Christmas present for Browns fans everywhere if they can go on the road and beat the Texans and get to that 10-win plateau and have the tiebreaker over the Texans should it come down to that in the wild card race, Red. So we'll see who's in and who's out this week with the injuries. That'll be a factor, obviously, in the game. And like I said, they might be going to the scrap heap or the streets to pick up some offensive linemen to help out Joe Flacco this week.
Kenny, I would expect that to happen. Seriously, we had made a little light of it and had a little fun with it. But speaking of Browns O-linemen from the past, but seriously, I think they have to. I think they're going to have to bring a guy or two in that they may have to be ready to polish up and get him on that O-line in front of Flacco. I do think it's going to be necessary.
Without question. All right, Reg, hey, always great to catch up with you. Browns a winner 20-17 over the Bears. And Reg, next time we tape, it'll be the holiday season. On Christmas Eve or Christmas morning or one day next week. I don't know, whenever we'll get it in. We'll wrap up what the Browns and the Texans did. But to you and to Ty, our outstanding producer, and to our loyal followers and listeners of the Reghi and Roda podcast, and going back all through the years when we were together on KNR, we want to wish everybody the happiest of holidays and enjoy time with the family, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Kenny, that's 1,000,000%, because none of what Kenny and I do would be possible without all of you. And we appreciate your interest and your loyalty, and hope all you and your family have a wonderful holiday season. And stay with us, because, as we said, it's going to be a fun ride coming through these last few football games and on into the playoffs for the Browns.
All right, Reg, have a great holiday, my friend. We'll catch up sometime next weekend, and we'll talk more Browns in the playoff picture here on the R&R podcast.